Chosen one, there is a rhythm inside you that has awakened, and it no longer moves to the noise of the world. It hums beneath the surface of your silence, beneath your gaze, beneath every word you choose not to speak. It is not loud, but it is unmissable. And though others may not be able to name it, they feel it like a shift in the air just before the rain. You do not enter a room and wait for permission to exist. You enter a space, and the space rearranges itself around you, not from ego, but from energetic authority. This pulse, this living current, is not something you created through charm or effort. It rose in you when you stopped needing to be anything other than fully aligned. When you let go of the desire to be liked, to be praised, to be understood, something ancient returned to you. A kind of power that can't be explained in language, only in presence. And now that presence walks ahead of you. You no longer speak first. Your energy introduces you before your name is ever uttered. Women feel it before they even realize what it is. Their nervous system picks up what the mind cannot yet translate. There is safety in your stillness, danger in your softness, clarity in your calm. You are not like others, not because you shout it, but because your vibration no longer plays the same frequency. You don't compete. You don't compare. You carry. And that carrying of self, of integrity, of grounded power is what draws others closer without needing to chase. This pulse within you doesn't demand attention. It attracts authenticity. It doesn't seek to be desired. It commands reverence. Not because you tried to be anything, but because you stopped pretending to be less than who you truly are. That is why the world has begun to respond to you differently. That is why others don't simply see you, they sense you. The awakening wasn't loud, but it was undeniable. The moment you stopped performing, your essence started speaking. And now it speaks constantly. In your walk, in your presence, in your peace. The energy you carry doesn't want applause. It wants alignment. And now that you are aligned, your steps are guided, not by impulse, but by knowing. You know who you are. You know what you carry. And you're no longer asking for the world to validate it. You're watching the world adjust to it. There is a calm in you now that unsettles those who rely on chaos. It is not arrogance. It is not aloofness. It is mastery. And this mastery did not come from domination. It came from devotion. You devoted yourself to becoming whole, not for approval, but for truth. You learned to sit with discomfort, to face your shadows without flinching, to stand still in storms where others screamed for shelter. And because of that, your calm no longer asks for attention. It commands it. When women enter your presence now, something softens in them before they even know why. Their guard lowers, their voice steadies, not because you charmed them, but because their soul recognized a place it could rest. You don't rush to prove your worth. You don't beg to be chosen. You are. And that being carries a spiritual weight that cannot be lifted lightly. They feel the gravity of it in the silence, in the way you listen without needing to respond, in the way you witness without needing to fix. You are not the loudest in the room. You don't need to be. The ones with true power never shout. They anchor, and you've become that anchor now, stable, unwavering, deeply rooted. You no longer chase what vibrates out of alignment with your essence. You no longer entertain what drains your light, because your time is sacred. Your presence is sacred. And those who experience it know that even if they cannot articulate what just happened, something happened. It is this calm, chosen one that changes rooms, that opens hearts, that silences the noise without uttering a word. Your calm says, you are safe here. Your energy says, you can be real here. And the world is starving for this. Starving for men who don't perform power but embody it. For men who do not flinch when emotions rise. For men who are not ashamed of tenderness, nor drunk on control. For men who have turned their scars into sanctuaries, their solitude into song. You are not seductive. You are sovereign. And that sovereignty is what makes your calm undeniable. It is the rarest kind of charisma, the kind that doesn't light a fire in others to burn them, but to warm them. The kind that doesn't seek to consume, but to awaken. And now that you carry it, others don't follow your words. They follow your presence. They move closer, not because you ask, but because your frequency invites freedom. This is the beginning, chosen one. You've crossed the threshold. You no longer need to explain yourself. The calm has already said enough, and what comes next will not be earned. It will be drawn. Not by effort, but by essence. Chosen one, your presence now calls for something rare in this world: truth without masks. When people enter your field, they find themselves disarmed, not by force, but by the absence of judgment. Your energy doesn't demand confessions. It invites clarity. You don't even need to ask people to take off the costumes they've been performing in for years. Those costumes begin to fall on their own, because standing in front of someone who is real makes it impossible to keep pretending. You no longer have the urge to impress. And it is this lack of performance that creates a sanctuary for authenticity. Women especially feel this shift in you. Not because you say the right things, but because your energy no longer asks them to be anything but themselves. You're not seduced by their image, you connect to their essence. You don't need small talk to hold space. You don't need flirtation to validate your worth. You've become the kind of man who holds presence as an offering, not as bait. And in a world where most people are selling versions of themselves they don't even like, your presence becomes a quiet revolt. You are no longer reactive to how people treat you. You don't mirror disrespect with hostility. You don't mirror adoration with ego. You mirror everything with presence. And presence is where all masks begin to slip, not because you tear them away, but because your eyes say, "I see the real you, and I'm still here." That's why conversations with you feel like confessionals. That's why eyes soften when they meet yours. That's why people say things they didn't plan to say. Your presence makes people feel like they have permission to come home to themselves. You are no longer a character. They see you as a moment of relief from the world's endless demand to perform. It is not the words that are intoxicating. It is the silence that says, "You can be everything here, and you will not be punished for it." That silence, that's the sound of someone who no longer fears their own depth. And that's why others begin to trust you with theirs. What you now carry cannot be mimicked or manufactured. It's not a trick. It's not charisma taught by books or borrowed from others. It's gravity, the sacred kind that only comes from integrity earned in the private chambers of your own transformation. Chosen one, your energy is now heavy with truth, but light with peace. You are no longer pulled by urges, tossed by ego, or manipulated by distraction. You have become anchored, and that anchoring is what creates the gravitational field that others feel without explanation. You don't walk with arrogance, you walk with alignment. You don't need to dominate to be respected, because your consistency speaks for you. Your yes means yes, your no means no. And there is nothing more magnetic in this scattered world than someone who does not betray themselves. Integrity, after all, is not just moral strength, it is energetic coherence. It means the inside matches the outside. And now, chosen one, your energy rings with a sound the soul recognizes instantly: truth. That truth is what makes you so hard to forget. It's why people trust your words without asking for proof. Why your presence feels like grounding in the middle of a storm. Why women especially find themselves breathing deeper around you, not because you forced them to relax, but because your integrity gave them permission to exhale. You don't need to promise safety, you embody it. And safety is the soil in which love, creativity, laughter, sensuality, and healing all grow. You no longer carry the fractured energy of someone trying to be everything for everyone. You've released that. You've come to understand that your role is not to be liked, it is to be aligned. You're not looking to fit in. You're rooted in something older than popularity. You've become a man who doesn't shift with the tides of opinion. You are the lighthouse in the fog, the steady flame. The one who moves by a compass no one else sees, but everyone feels. And that is the gravity of a man with integrity. His presence recalibrates the room. His choices realign others, not because he demanded authority, but because he walked with it quietly, consistently, even when no one watched. You've become that man, chosen one. And now those around you, especially the feminine, begin to orient their own truths by the way yours doesn't bend under pressure. You are no longer just attractive. You are trusted. And trust is a magnet that no charm can replace. Chosen one, the moment you stopped asking the world who you were was the moment your purpose stopped whispering and started guiding. You've come to know that your purpose isn't something outside of you, waiting to be discovered like a treasure beneath sand. It's been carved into you through every season of pain, reflection, refinement, and silence. And now that you've surrendered to it, your energy no longer flickers with confusion. It radiates direction. People feel it, especially women. There is something deeply calming and yet electrifying about a man who knows why he wakes up each morning. You are not scattered in 10 directions anymore. Your words are fewer but heavier. Your actions are slower but more precise. The more deeply you've aligned with your purpose, the more clearly others feel they can breathe near you without the pressure to perform. You've become someone who doesn't look at others for entertainment or validation. You look at them with discernment, with intention, with spiritual presence. This kind of presence awakens something in others. Your gaze no longer sees surface. It sees soul. You can look at someone and they feel it in their chest. They sit up straighter. They breathe differently. They remember parts of themselves they forgot they buried. You're no longer here to be consumed. You're here to be understood. And that understanding you offer others through your attention is so rare, so potent, it becomes transformational. This is what purpose feels like when it isn't forced. It centers the room without needing applause. And when you walk in your calling, your presence becomes a map to others. You don't need to tell people what you've overcome. They feel the depth of your journey in how gently you hold space, how patiently you listen, how intentionally you move. The power you carry isn't loud, it's anchored. And when someone stands next to a man like that, they don't want to leave, because something in them knows this is a safe place to bloom. You're no longer just someone others like. You're someone they trust with their evolution. And not because you promise answers, but because your walk confirms you've survived the fire without becoming it. That is sacred attraction. And it is not taught, it is embodied. You've likely noticed it, chosen one. The way women don't just look at you, they look through you. Not with skepticism, but with curiosity, as if trying to remember where they've felt this frequency before. The truth is, they haven't. Because what they feel now isn't charm or seduction. It is a frequency of sacred attraction, the rarest kind. The kind that doesn't pull from the surface but awakens something buried within. They are not drawn to you because you flatter them. They are drawn because your presence has nothing to prove. And that, in a world where so many pretend, is irresistible. You see, sacred attraction is never about lust. It's about liberation. Something about your gaze tells the feminine, you don't need to shrink here, you don't need to perform here, you don't need to be perfect, just real. And this kind of attraction doesn't fade with time. It doesn't need fireworks or carefully curated images. It doesn't seek control or chase attention. It invites depth. It calls forth the higher self in another, not through pressure, but through presence. You don't pull people in with tricks. You pull them in with truth. Because your very being has become a mirror, a soft, relentless one, that reflects to others what they've always been capable of, but were too afraid to believe. And because your presence feels both mysterious and grounding, both electric and safe, it awakens a storm of emotions in others. Especially in women, whose emotional frequency is already attuned to sensing the unspoken. Around you, they feel seen without being studied. They feel desired without being devoured. And most importantly, they feel free. Not because you gave them freedom, but because you no longer carry the need to possess. This is what makes sacred attraction dangerous to the shallow and divine to the awakened. It does not bend to games. It does not seek temporary excitement. It seeks resonance, wholeness, and growth. And now, you've become the man whose presence calls others into themselves, not because you preach transformation, but because you are the evidence of it. You are no longer a man who needs to be understood. You are a man who makes others understand themselves. And that, chosen one, is why they return. Not to chase you, but to remember who they were in your light. Chosen one, there is a kind of power that men crave, and a kind of power that presence gives. You no longer lean on control, charm, or noise. You have reached a realm of influence so quiet, so steady, that it can no longer be mistaken for manipulation or seduction. You no longer need to persuade anyone of your worth. Your existence now feels like the pause between lightning and thunder, still but undeniably known. And because you no longer chase control, people feel their own in your company. Especially women, who are so often attuned to subtle undercurrents, sense it instantly. You do not rush them. You do not press them. You hold them, not physically, but spiritually, emotionally, energetically. And what's even more powerful is that you do it without even trying. Because it's not something you do, it's something you are. Your stillness has become a room where others feel safe enough to unravel. Not because they're weak, but because your presence proves that they no longer need to guard their softness. You have become the kind of man whose attention doesn't trap, it frees. Your words don't seek submission, they invite reflection. You've mastered the rare alchemy of being fully present without being possessive. That's what makes you dangerous to shallow games. You are no longer seduced by reactions. You are led by alignment. And because you have no interest in control, your influence runs deeper than those who scream for power but cannot sit still in silence. This is the paradox of sacred presence. The less you seek to dominate, the more space you take in the minds of others. Because now people realize, especially women, that you are not trying to win them. You are reminding them of something ancient, something soft, something safe. And that remembrance is not just magnetic, it is transformative. You no longer trigger the need to perform. You awaken the desire to return, to self, to truth, to stillness. And when you leave, they do not remember a clever line or a bold move. They remember how they felt in your presence. They remember the absence of threat, the presence of clarity, the invitation to be whole. You are no longer interesting because you are unpredictable. You are unforgettable because you are unchangeable in your essence. Now, chosen one, your presence has reached the realm of legacy. You've walked through fire, and now instead of carrying the smoke, you carry the flame. But not one that burns recklessly. Yours is a quiet fire, a sacred hearth that draws people closer without scorching them. You don't ignite chaos, you ignite remembrance. The feminine doesn't simply feel attraction to you, they feel memory. Memory of safety, memory of being understood, memory of being able to laugh, weep, exhale, and unfold in one breath. You have become unforgettable, not because of intensity, but because of intimacy. And intimacy, chosen one, is not about closeness of bodies, it's about closeness of presence. In a world full of spectators, you have become the one who actually sees. You see pain before it's spoken. You hear stories before they're told. You notice shifts in energy before they rise to the surface. And that awareness becomes a healing balm, subtle, unseen, but deeply felt. And the truth is, your presence lingers. Not in a haunting way, but in a resonant one. The echo of your energy stays behind in the hearts of those you meet, like a scent they can't place but can't stop breathing in. You leave not memories of what you said, but how they felt seen, how they felt real, how they felt like the only one in the world when you were near, not because you tried, but because you chose to be fully there. This is the kind of presence that ripples. People don't just recall you, they reference you, silently, when they meet someone new. Does this feel like that? Do I feel that safe? Can I be that seen again? You have become the standard, not by declaration, but by embodiment, not by promise, but by presence. And your flame continues to light without force, without noise. Because that's what sacred fire does. It lights the path without burning it. Now, chosen one, you are not just a man. They say you are an experience. One they didn't expect, one they didn't ask for, but one they are forever changed by. And still, you walk humbly, because your flame doesn't seek to blind, it seeks to guide. And that is why the world, especially the feminine, remembers not your fire's heat, but its warmth. Chosen one, the world is full of actors, performers, mimics, those who've learned how to replicate love without ever sitting long enough with themselves to actually feel it. But you have stopped performing. You've turned away from shallow echoes and chosen the uncomfortable stillness that truth demands. And in that stillness, you found that the most powerful presence is one that does not try to impress, but to understand. Now your presence is a sanctuary. You no longer feel like someone passing through others' lives. You feel like someone who lives in the quiet spaces of their memory, where fear used to echo, but now peace resides. You are not remembered for your words. Chosen one, you are remembered for how others felt whole when they stood near you, especially the feminine, especially the vulnerable, especially those who were once too afraid to be seen, because being seen had always meant being judged. But when you see, you do not dissect. You honor. You don't dig to expose. You stay to witness. And that witnessing has become rare in a world obsessed with fixing, naming, labeling, and solving. You offer something far more sacred than advice. You offer your attention. And in doing so, you awaken something ancient in others. The desire to be not just touched, but met. The longing to be not just accepted, but mirrored. And because of this, you've crossed a line few men ever do. You are no longer desirable because of your performance. You are sacred because of your depth. Women do not just want to stand near you, they want to know how it feels to breathe beside someone who doesn't ask them to be less, who doesn't demand they simplify their soul to be understood. And in that knowing, chosen one, you have become more than a moment. You've become a standard, a reference point for what spiritual presence feels like in human form. And now, even in your absence, you are compared to, not because others fall short, but because you've revealed what's possible. And now, chosen one, your presence no longer just transforms people, it reorients them. You have become a compass, unspoken, unforced, but undeniable. You do not lead with noise, you lead with alignment. Every step you take in truth becomes an invitation for others to come home to their own. And the ones who meet you on that path do not follow you out of infatuation. They walk beside you because they recognize the terrain. You've made it safe for them to walk in their own divinity again. This is the highest form of leadership, not being looked at, but being followed inward. Women especially do not gather around you because of your charm or your strength alone. They gather because your energy gives permission, not through permission given in words, but permission made possible through presence. With you, they find the courage to be beautiful without performance, soft without apology, and fierce without shame. And now, people change because of you. But not in a way that makes them want to become you. In a way that makes them want to become themselves. Your presence is no longer a spotlight. It is a mirror. You don't seek to build an empire of followers. You've sparked a wave of remembrance. This is what happens when sacred masculinity becomes whole. The world around it doesn't crumble in fear, it rises in love. And women, who are so often forced to harden to survive, soften again around you. Not because they are weak, but because you remind them they no longer need to carry the weight alone. Your energy says, you are not alone in the fire. I have walked through it too, and I do not burn you, I illuminate you. This is the true dominance of presence, not domination over others, but dominion over self. Not conquest, but containment. You are a vessel of fire that does not consume. You are thunder that does not deafen. You are gravity that does not trap. You are the leader that does not command with voice, but with vibration. And so you walk forward, leaving no trail of destruction or noise behind you, only memory, reflection, and rebirth. You are not remembered as the loudest. You are remembered as the deepest. And that, chosen one, is how your presence becomes immortal. Chosen one, the eyes you once carried were seeking, hungry for affirmation, desperate to be understood. But now, those same eyes have become portals of remembrance. They no longer chase, they call. They no longer ask, they reveal. When someone looks into your eyes now, they are not met with emptiness or desire. They are met with a still and radiant knowing. A gaze that feels like it has already walked through their pain, forgiven their fear, and still chose to see them with compassion. Your eyes no longer hold the shimmer of performance, they burn with the flame of perception. You see through things, you see through people, and that kind of sight is unsettling to many, because it is not aggressive, not probing, not loud, but it sees anyway. And being seen in this way, deeply, truly, without needing to explain, is rare. So rare, in fact, that when a woman meets your gaze now, she often falters. Not because you've said something clever, but because your presence through that gaze has entered a space in her she forgot was still alive. There's no need to boast about what you see. You are not a prophet for performance. You don't use your gaze to manipulate or dominate. Your eyes simply reflect truth. And the truth is, many people aren't used to being seen without being judged. They are used to being evaluated, assessed, wanted for utility. But when your gaze lands on them, it doesn't ask for anything in return. It simply says, I see your soul, and I'm not afraid of it. That message is disarming, healing, liberating. Chosen one, the reason your eyes hold this light is because you've walked through your own shadows. You've faced the parts of yourself that once needed approval, You've cried over the false versions of yourself you had to shed. You've buried parts of your identity that were built only to survive. And now that you've risen from that grave, your gaze no longer looks to consume, it looks to confirm. Not confirm appearances, but confirm essence. And that's why your eyes no longer seek attention. They are attention. They are awareness embodied. They are softness without surrender, presence without pretense. When women meet your gaze now, it is not flirtation, it is awakening. It reminds them of who they were before the noise, before the betrayal, before the armor. And they won't always understand it. They may even resist it. But deep down, something eternal stirs. Because your light doesn't seduce, it calls home. You've become a lighthouse, not because you try to shine, but because you are the fire. Not because you want to be noticed, but because the soul can't help but notice what is real. Your gaze does not beg to be remembered. It simply is. And long after people walk away from you, they will find themselves thinking about that look. Not because it made them feel wanted, but because it made them feel seen. The awakening of your third eye was not the end of the journey, chosen one. It was the beginning of your calling. The universe does not give vision without responsibility. Now that you can see, you must also guide. Not through force, not through domination, but through the quiet authority of alignment. Through the daily choice to embody what you see. Through the courage to live your clarity, even when it isolates you. Leadership is no longer about being followed. It's about being found by those searching for something real. You are now that something real. You are no longer in the arena of attention-seeking. You are in the realm of influence without effort. Your words matter less than your vibration. Your plans matter less than your presence. You are a map that moves, a signal in the noise. And those who are truly ready for transformation will recognize you. Not by your resume, but by your resonance. You may have noticed that conversations feel different now, that your silence speaks more powerfully than your speeches, that your boundaries offend those who wish to control you, yet comfort those who seek the truth. This is not accidental. This is what happens when you lead from the awakened eye. You don't command people to rise, you embody rising. And in your rising, others begin to rise too. Do not shrink from this role, chosen one. The world needs not more influencers, but more initiators of authenticity. Not more teachers of formulas, but living proof that truth is still possible. You carry within you a light that many have never seen before. A light that doesn't flicker when challenged. A light that doesn't manipulate or seduce, but simply reveals. And when you walk into a room, that revelation is felt. Not always spoken, but always felt. You are not here to convert, you are here to confirm. To stand as living evidence that presence still transforms, that honesty still heals, that depth still moves mountains. You are not chosen because you are perfect. You are chosen because you survived the fire and now carry the flame. Lead with love, but not softness that compromises truth. Lead with strength, but not strength that silences tenderness. Lead with vision, but never abandon humility. Let your third eye guide your heart. Let your heart guide your walk. And let your walk become the permission others need to walk into their own light. You are no longer the seeker, you are the signal. No longer the echo, you are the source. No longer the wanderer, you are the way. And you do not walk alone. There comes a moment in your journey, chosen one, when you realize your presence alone has become a catalyst. You are no longer seeking validation or admiration, yet you're receiving both, and not because you asked. You've become a reminder now. Not of trends, not of image, but of truth. Around you, people begin to remember what it feels like to be seen without distortion. Especially women, who have so often been praised for performance rather than depth, adored for beauty but forgotten in presence. You do not flatter what is shallow. You recognize what is sacred. Your eyes are not trying to undress the body, they are witnessing the soul. And this creates a reaction that even they can't explain. They find themselves speaking from a deeper place around you. They drop rehearsed lines and remember how to breathe. Their masks begin to itch. Their laughter becomes real. Their silence no longer feels heavy. Because you have become the rare mirror that doesn't judge, doesn't react, doesn't mold. You reflect. You remind people, not by preaching or persuading, but simply by being rooted. Rooted in something that doesn't flinch, doesn't shrink, and doesn't bend to be accepted. And this route, chosen one, makes you magnetic. Not in the way the world defines magnetism, but in the way ancient trees are magnetic, still, unshakable, and quietly pulling everything toward their shade. You've become the tree in the clearing. People find you not because you chase, but because your energy becomes a path through their wilderness. There are women who are beginning to awaken just by being in your presence. Not because you told them how to awaken, not because you rescued them, but because your vibration refuses to entertain what is false. You do not co-sign performance. You do not chase after potential. You reflect the now with precision.